All right, here we go. So I'm gonna try to do this as quickly as possible so that I don't waste anybody's time or energy. But first I'm gonna throw on the Team USA hat to represent one of our, show the pride with one of our athletes that's competing overseas right now. I'm not gonna say their name, so I don't want to step on any NCAA rules or anything like that. I guess I could put on this USA hat though to kind of make it look more like the WWBA kind of look for World Baseball Championships. Let me take that off. All right, anyways, what we're gonna be talking about today is, I had a conversation and I promised to share this. Some of it is gonna be shared in this one, and some of it's just gonna be shared in a private webinar that I'll send information out to those who request information on it. So, but I'm gonna share 3 or 4 of the common themes of one of my more recent 3-hour conversations with a Division I coach. And I talk with coaches all the time, interact back and forth with them, because they're really looking to make sure that they understand what's going on from a student athlete standpoint, and that they understand what trials and tribulations and what kind of a base that the student athletes that they're recruiting from are coming from. So since we produce Division I, Division II, and Division III athletes consistently over the last 25 years, I've developed a good rapport with coaches because they know I'm going to be honest with them about what's going on and what the struggles are that kids are going through, and their parents, and their travel coaches and their high school coaches, and so that they understand really what it's like. Because you have to remember, even if a college coach was recently a student athlete, unless they were a student athlete like just 4 years ago, things have already changed. Like, the life cycle for college student athletics is like, the turnover so fast. I mean, things are evolving and changing and being modified all the time. So you need to make sure that whoever you're working with or talking with, or you're getting information from, or whoever you're basing a lot of your futures, is hanging in the balance because of their impact or their input, you better make sure that they're on the cutting edge and that they're aware of what's relevant for you specifically. And it's also good to know what a college coach is actually looking for, because unless you're consistently communicating with them in the different sports, in the different conferences, you don't exactly know what they're going through or what they're looking for. You also don't know how they're looking, which is really important, because Jim Quick says 50% of being successful is showing up. Now the thing is, you can't be successful at the highest level in college if you don't make it to the highest level in college. So you have to first be seen. In order to get recruited, you have to get in front of that coach. So it's important to understand how they're looking, to understand where you need to be in order to be seen. Because you can be phenomenal, but if nobody sees you, it's like that tree that got, chopped down in the woods. Did it really fall down if nobody heard it, if nobody saw it? So you don't want to be the tree in college student athletics. No, with all due respect, Stanford, I don't mean to, chop down your hopes here of being recognized, because you pretty much win the Capital One thing every other year. So, but with that being said, that's the point. You have to get recognized. So the conversation goes as follows. I'll start it off. I was reaching out to the coach prior to this conversation to get information for one of our student athletes, to see what they had going on, and who they're looking to recruit, and if there is a need for this person, and what the kind of like ebb and flow of the school was, and what the makeup of the team was, and chemistry wise would this kid fit, and yada yada yada. So long story short, let me jump right into the middle of the conversation. We started off, we're just talking about life for the first 30 minutes or so, and then we start getting into the coach asking me questions about what the realities are currently, the limitations, and what's the real environment for a student athlete coming out of high school these days. And they wanted to know what it was like coming out of the different areas where we have different athletes coming out, because we work with people not just in our area, but all over the place, because we work with them online. So I was breaking it down. Well, this is what it's looking like for most people from a small school, or if they're not on a travel team, or if they're on a travel team, if they're not on a good travel team, if they're not on a travel team that's already produced people at the high level. So there's so many different things to talk about, and so we started talking about that. Now, I'm going to give you in, kind of in a nutshell, 3 or 4 of the different things that we talked about, because it gets misrepresented all the time, and there's these myths that are out there that get generated, I think, from people who maybe I don't want to say has been, but maybe they were somebody who used to be, like I used to be a Division I athlete. I guess I can carry that around for the rest of my life, but that was in the 1990s. When the 90s were over, that era was over. And honestly, even in the 90s, things were already changing. You go into the 2000s. Now it's 2018. If you're graduating this year, you're going to be 2019. Do you think things are going to be the same from 2019 from 1993? No, they're not. There's a few things that are similar, but not many things are similar. So it's great that I had that experience, and it's useful to say, and you get some pride when you think about it, but as far as it being really impactful, it's not as impactful as you'd think. It's not as impactful as just my one conversation that I'm going to talk about. It's also not as impactful as whether or not the people that you're working with were successful recently, and have they been successful for a while. So it's important to look at all those things. Now, let's jump into the conversation. One of the first things to talk about was, we were discussing, mindset's a buzzword right now, so everybody wants to talk about mindset. So we were talking about something that I guess in some way, shape, or form relates to mindset, and that is, we were talking about relationships. Sounds weird, right? We were talking about relationships. Actually, the reason why we're able to have this conversation is from relationships, because I have a relationship with a coach. They trust me, they respect me, I trust them, I respect them, and we're able to be straight shooters on the phone. I don't have to worry about, being, not that I'm not politically correct, but I can be straight and to the point about when I describe somebody or something, and they know exactly what I'm talking about. So when we, jump into this conversation, like one of the first things we're talking about is relationships, meaning like what kind of a relationship are they looking for from the student athlete to their school, to their team, to their travel team, to their family, to their community, and what are they hoping to bring in to the college? Now, obviously, most people are going to be like, oh, okay, so they want, they want people that are, they're going to be committed to the community. They're going to be good with their teammates. They're going to, you can kind of map it out in your head. It's like, it's the prototypical what they're looking for. Yes and no. So, and this is how it connects to mindset. They want somebody who has, you hear it come up this way. We want somebody who, because you'll hear great champions sometimes say the thing like, I hated losing more than I wanted to win. Okay, well, it's easy to say that if you're somebody who wins all the time. But the majority of kids that get to Division I and Division II athletics are not going to win all the time. Here's where there's an issue. They're used to winning all the time. Let me say that again. So the great champions of Division I will say, they often say they hated losing more than they wanted to win, almost. And that's for some people. That's kind of like the stoic way of things in a roundabout way. That's not exactly the way that it goes now for most of the places. A lot of the places have more creativity, but they have structure. Now here's how, again, connecting that back to mindset. When we had this conversation, the coach said, I need to have somebody who has lost greatly and overcame it, or attempted to overcome it. Didn't just mail it in. So when did they falter, and how did they respond? And were they aware of how they responded if they didn't respond appropriately? And then have they faltered since then? And have they risen from that, defeat? What are they looking for? He didn't want all the specifics of, break down how they had a growth mindset, like what were they looking for an opportunity in the loss. And nobody wants somebody who's looking to lose necessarily, but at the same time, unless you're going to be the top 1% of Division I, Division II, you're going to be losing a lot, especially in practice at first. And some people can't get over that hill because they're not used to losing. Because you see, in order to come out of that high school, you have to be succeeding at a high level. And chances are you're probably the best person in your school, in your county, in your city, in your state, in your whatever. You fill it out. You might even be the best in the nation for that particular time and space. But now, boom, put you in college, you might not be the best at your position anymore. You might not be the best on the team anymore. You might not even be in the middle, especially at first. So if you don't understand, like if you hate losing so bad, you might quit. Okay? Or you might get beaten down, or you might get sick more than you need to, or you might fill in the blank. You might be looking for a lot of things that aren't going to be super helpful. So the coach was like, tell me, do they know how to lose and move forward from it? Okay, so we had a long discussion about that. But again, they have to be ready for adversity. They don't have to like it. They're not saying they like losing, but they do have to be ready to deal with it on a daily basis because it is coming. Okay, next thing. This goes with that too. This is in a relationship. Their relationship to losing and winning and learning, and then their relationship to their team. You know, they want somebody who's going to raise the level of the team, but they also don't want somebody necessarily who's just going to go along. Now, I'll give you an example. Okay, so later in this conversation, I said, well, coach, which would you rather have? Would you rather have the kid that literally is going to step on the throat, so to speak, of their competitor? Or do you want somebody who, would you rather have that? Or would you rather have the person that was like, excuse me, being kind all the time? And the answer is, I want them to politely step on their throat. Okay, so what does that mean? Politely step on their throat. That means they want you to go not for the kill, but they want you to go for the win, but you can do it in a way where you're a sportsman. Okay, so you don't have to break the rules, and they don't want you to break the rules, but they do want you to go for it. And they don't want you to worry about the risk. They do want you to kind of navigate the course to minimize the risk, but they do not want you to be fearful of the loss. And that's the thing. You see more creativity these days in college than you ever did. And the ones who are at the very, very, very top excelling nowadays are the ones who are creative. And here's the big but they also get the fact that they need a schedule. And that schedule creates freedom. So the people who are super, super creative that don't have a schedule do not succeed. They don't succeed. They're usually the person who is done with school early because they're adverse to a schedule because nobody's ever gotten through to them enough to help them understand. If you have a schedule, you can make time for free time. Okay? Let me say that again. If you have a schedule, you can make time for free time. Well, I like my freedom. You will have more freedom if you have a schedule. Like, that's what you have to learn. Because what happens is the kids who don't quit early, they're usually like the soldiers. They've got that stoic mentality. You know, they've got that, you know, they're the person that's going to trudge forward. They might not be thinking about anything. They might not be creative. They might not be capable of being the best of the best. But they are going to go longer, stronger than the rest. You got to find that combination between the creativity and that soldier's mentality. And the creative person's not necessarily ever going to really be a soldier and vice versa, but they have to pull. It's like feminine and masculine qualities. You have to pull from one another in order to get like an even mix, because you need a little bit of one or the other in order to allow yourself to move forward and make progress. That's where, again, the mindset piece is really helpful, but you have to do the work, okay? You have to wake up, and this is where so in sports, drilling is essential to get down the basics. And so it's like your morning routine is your drill. Just like, you know, in the military, I'm going to drill. That's what they just call it, drill. Okay, well, what are you working on? You're working on your basics. And it's a set routine. You know you're gonna do it, you're gonna be better from doing it. It's just like your morning routine, your night routine, your practice routine, your pre-game routine, whatever it is, your rituals. You have to do that. That is an absolute necessity. There's no option where that doesn't happen. So you might as well get that through your head. If you want to be in college athletics, that's something that has to happen. So get used to the schedule. that was one of the ones that we were talking about, is like kids can't get used to a schedule. Get used to the schedule before college, otherwise it's not gonna go well, okay? You can't wait until you're there to just prepare. That's what a lot of soldiers will do. Kids who end up going into the military that aren't going to like a Naval Academy, West Point, Air Force Academy, all those things, if they're going straight into the military, many of them have not had a routine up until that point. And they make it, but they would have been so much more successful if they got used to a routine before they got there. And then they're more successful. So like that's the piece. Think about that soldier mentality of getting up and going through drill. Drill. You can play, but you drill first, and that makes time to play. Okay, next thing. Scouting reports. Okay, this is another misconception that people have. People think that scouting reports are for other people. This is a lesson I learned back with the Ritz-Carlton. This is a huge part of the conversation that I had. I was like, hey, listen, I remember at the Ritz, we were like the CIA. We knew everything about our guests coming in. We knew what they liked, we knew what they didn't like, we knew what they wanted and when they wanted it. Okay, we knew what their habits were, we knew what made their stay more successful. Okay? You got to do that same thing for yourself. But that's what this coach was doing. He was trying to get all this information so he could be more successful as a coach, so he could be more successful recruiting, and then also when he got people there to know what their strengths were, what their weaknesses were, so they could be prepared, so they knew how to deal with these kids when they got there to help them, grow into the people that they hoped they would become. And that the parents also obviously hoped they'd become, because they wanted those kids to be great people, great performers athletically and academically, and then obviously be boosters for the rest of their life and be able to be in situations where they could pay it forward financially and with their time and energy and be a great resource and a great example, be a role model for that program, and to have a paradigm shift happen within a program because of sometimes it's just one person makes that shift and then boom, that's what happens. So back to the scouting report. And I told him, hey, listen, with us, what we do is we call it RNA, DNA analysis. And I asked the people, hey, listen, you scout yourself as if you're the opponent. You tell me what you do good. You tell me how to stop you. You tell me the situations where you are excellent. You tell me the situations where you're not so great. You tell me your setups for those situations. You tell me how you get set up for the situations that aren't so great for you. That scouting report is essential. And we don't just do that athletically. You need to have your scouting report academically. You need to know how it is that you can be successful and where you're most gifted and where you have the most interest and where and how you invest your time to get the return and how are you doing on returns and are you tracking it and what does that look like? It sounds like a lot of stuff, but it's really not a lot of stuff. It's actually it's the vital few that we track. That's another Ritz-Carlton thing, the vital few objectives, the vital few things that we're tracking too. So you got to know who you are. A lot of people will be like, I said, well, I'm not telling you to do a scouting report on your opponent. Do a scouting report on you. If you don't know who you are, how are you going to work on yourself? Because the people who are against any scouting reports of opponents, they're like, no, we're going to work on ourselves. Okay, tell me about you. The problem is these athletes, these students get to college and they don't know about themselves because they've been patted on the back for so long. They've been told they were talented or they were told you can do anything. All these things could be true, but also they're also told that, not that it was going to be easy, but like that they were fine and they're not fine. And you have to put in more work and it has to be concentrated, intelligent work. All right. So that's the scouting report thing. Here's the last thing. All right. And this is probably one of the bigger things that there is, and that is getting clear on what you're shooting for. What is this kid's goal? What does he want to do? What does she want to do? How long have they been at it for? What does that look like? They're trying to figure out what that kid's story is. It's like, it's on the admissions. We have several friends that are in admissions, and they always told us, we have great students that apply all the time that don't get in. Why don't they get in? Their story wasn't very interesting. It didn't sound like it was very personal. It didn't sound like they've overcome adversity. It didn't sound like they knew themselves. So this is almost an extension of that scouting report. We have a lot of people Initially, I was in communications in college, broadcast journalism. And so we have a lot of student athletes that come in here that are in engineering. We have a lot that are in sports performance type stuff. And then we have a lot that are actually in broadcast journalism type stuff, communication stuff. And one of the interesting things is when they're preparing for a live broadcast, how do they prepare? They create their storyboard. They try to learn the stories of all these athletes that they're going to be watching play, so that they can bring the viewer a little bit more into the process. It becomes more real when you're watching a game and you start to learn about somebody. You start to get drawn in. They start to tap into that dopamine. They start to tap into your endorphins. They start to get that oxytocin going through your body. And that's a great storyteller. And that's what you need to have for yourself. As a student athlete, you need to be able to tell your story. And it's very empowering once you sit down and break down your story and you can actually communicate that to people. Because if you tell me to tell me about yourself, and you don't really know, you don't really sound very invested. And you might be 100% invested kind of as that soldier doing work every day. But I want to know that you can communicate it to me, because also that's going to help communicate things to your teammates. That's going to help communicate things to your teachers. That's going to make you more personable. It's going to make you more likable. That's going to make you have more fans, so to speak, And what story are you telling the rest of the world on social media as it relates to what your actual story is? Is there congruency there? Is there integrity there between the two? There isn't an awful lot of social media to pipeline to the life congruency these days. There's not a ton of it. It's very, very small amount. It's probably the same amount that gets into Division I athletics and Division II athletics. It's like 1% to 2%. It's probably the same level. So that's the thing. And some people think that it's ego that helps you create a story. That's not the ego. You do have to look at yourself and do some self-reflections and see where you are. Not comparatively, but where you are, how you got there. What were the things that were important to you? What are the things you're grateful for? What were the obstacles you overcame? What are some of your achievements? What did you hope to become at this level, at this level, at this level? What do you now realize that you didn't know before? What were some of your epiphanies? Draw those people in. And the thing is, if you can draw those people in, especially in admissions, you're going to draw that coach in. You're going to draw those teammates in. They're going to be the guy or the girl that people say, hey, who we should invite to this party? Hey, who we should invite to dinner? Hey, who we should ask if they want to go on this run with us? Hey, who we should say, they should come down and do this extra workout? Hey, who we should go get coffee or tea with? You want to be that somebody. You also don't want to be that somebody who doesn't know who they are. College is a time to realize who you are, but also at the same time, you have to realize who you are a little bit before you get there in order to really give yourself the greatest opportunity to be at the best place to realize that. So that was a few pieces from my conversation with my friend. And at the end of the conversation, neither one of us were really done. We could have talked all night. And I was like, hey, you know what? Thank you so much for being honest. And because it's a pleasure, because I learned so much from talking with them. And he said the same thing back to me. Hey, you know what? We don't know what those kids, what those parents, what those teachers and trainers and coaches are going through, because it was so long ago that we were there. So if we don't reach out and share these things and learn from each other, and like the Ritz-Carlton, get that scouting report, get that guest preference, find out what their ups are, what their downs are, what they've been through, what they like, what they dislike, what helps them function at a high level, what maybe challenges them. Without that, where are you? Because the idea is put the student athlete in the best possible position to be successful at the highest level that they can, and help them hopefully realize their dream or get them as close as humanly possible, and then dream another dream, and then keep on dreaming, keep on living one step at a time, day by day. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. And if you want to know how we do it, then shoot me a direct message, send me a text, send me an email. I'm dying to work with people who want to dream the impossible dream and put themselves in that every single day, and then get to the place that they maybe never even knew they could even dream of, let alone realize and experience. And it comes from all these different pieces going together. And you have to be working with somebody like us that's had 25 years of experience. It doesn't have to be 25 years, but that's our experience. And that's had the experience as a student athlete, as a Division I student athlete. That's been there as a coach. That's been there as a teacher, as a trainer. That's taught at the highest level. That's coached at the highest level. That has people that have gotten to the highest level, that are professional athletes or that are professional coaches in the coaching world, and that stays in contact with these people, and that's constantly evolving. I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly learning things that I could have done better yesterday, and then I put that into practice today. It has to be relevant to me and to the people I'm working with. And if it's not, I just put it on the back burner. I put it on a someday maybe list. But I know where it is because I'm organized and I know how to actually keep things in line, in lockstep. And you have to try to figure out how to be creative and how to be disciplined enough to take the daily drilling actions, because you're not going to get that deep. You're not going to get to the level that you're supposed to get to if you don't do it consistently. Take some consistent action. DM me, text me, email me. Heck, shoot a comment underneath this if you want to. If you know what, if you have a question that you really want to get answered, you can throw it in the comments below. That's fine. I'll answer it. If it's simple, I'll put a response right in the comment. If it's not simple, I'll send it to you privately. I hope that was helpful, and I kept it under 30 minutes. So 26:26, we're going to sign off for today. I hope you have a wonderful day, have a great weekend, and I hope you're working on your dreams today and the dreams of your student athletes today and every day. Dream a massive dream.